Hello everybody, this is Jason from Iron Mission. Thank you so much for being here. In today's video, we are going to be discussing stage 2 on your Harley. Adding a cam, it can make a lot of difference. And what's nice here is we've done this twice. We have two bikes right here in our garage that both went through a stage 2, same exact Milwaukee 8 114 cubic inch engine. Little bit different results. If you're thinking about doing a stage 2, you're going to want to stick around and see the differences between two of the most popular cams, and that is the Woods 22XE versus the S&S 475. They're both great cams, and if you're looking at both of them, you really can't go wrong with either one. I want to state that from the start, but there are some important differences too. Let's go take a closer look. So yeah, when you get a Harley Davidson and it comes with that stock exhaust, it sounds horrible. I wish they wouldn't even put those exhausts on there. And of course, we want some more sound. And so what we did on both of these bikes is we went with the typical slip-on exhaust. Now, both of the motorcycles I'm going to show you today have pretty much the exact same setup. And so we started with the Tab Zombie baffles. They're 4.5 inch in diameter. Both of these motorcycles, we went with the Tab header. Both of them have the same tuner, the Pro Street tuner. The only difference really between the two is the air cleaner. That intake on Joanna's Road King is a high flow intake that's got the snorkel intake. My Screaming Eagle has the regular traditional air cleaner, at least the shape, but it is high flow as well. I just wanted that for this motorcycle. The high flow air cleaner that Joanna has, the Screaming Eagle, looks a little bit better on hers. That's not going to make a ton of difference in terms of the horsepower and torque. And so those numbers, those differences are really going to mostly come down to the cam. So of course, there's a couple reasons why you might want to add the cam to your motorcycle. One, obviously, is for horsepower and torque. Harley Davidson motorcycles, when they're stock, it's pretty anemic. And adding a cam is going to get you a little bit more in both of those areas. The other thing is the sound. And while Harleys sound great, especially if you put an aftermarket exhaust, they sound a whole lot better when you add that cam. Kind of depends on the cam that you choose, but both of these are going to sound pretty good. And I'm going to let you hear that here in a few minutes. All right, so the cost of the cams themselves are pretty close to the same. Now, you're going to need a lot of other things besides just the cam itself, but all those other things you're going to need regardless of the type of cam. And so the S&S 475 right now on their website is right around $300. The Woods 22XE is around $340. Once you start adding in all the other stuff, trust me, the cost of the cam in and of itself is nothing. When you're doing one of these stage 2s, all in, you're easily looking at a couple grand. Now, when it comes to the power, I'm just gonna show you these sheets that we got when we had the motorcycle tuned. They even went to the exact same place, the exact same person tuned these bikes. So we really can't get any closer in terms of comparison here. All right, so for Joanna's Road King, her tune, we wound up with around 110 horsepower and 126 foot-pounds of torque. And so you can see this torque curve here. What I like about the S&S 475 is the torque came on real fast. You can see it coming on pretty strong, and by 3,000 RPMs, that torque is pretty close to peak. I love that. You can see the horsepower is coming on. It's nice and linear. And so when you're riding this bike, you really feel that come on pretty strong, and you can see that right around 2,200 RPMs. And again, by 3,000, it's peaking, and that's where you're normally going to be riding in most conditions. And so that's a really usable amount of torque. And of course, the torque is what makes you feel like you're really moving. So I'm not going to lie, with the Woods 22XE, the reason I went for that particular cam is I thought I was going to get a significant, or at least a nice bump in horsepower and torque over the S&S 475. And I really didn't get that. The Woods 22XE was right around 113 in terms of the horsepower, and around 127 or so on the foot-pounds of torque. And so the two cams were really similar. You can see here the torque, again, it comes on pretty hard, peaks right around 3,000, 3,200, and it stays nice and high all the way up to around 4,000. And so both cams are giving you torque in that usable range. The horsepower is nice and linear. There is a little bit of a dip for the Woods 22XE. You can see that dip and then that peak again right around 4,000. Now again, the same person tuned both of these motorcycles, and he did mention this is not the ideal setup for torque and horsepower. So you could potentially get more. And the way that he explained it to me, again, I'm not an expert. That's why I took it to a tuner to get tuned. Both of these bikes have that same header, those same zombie baffles from Tab. He said a 2-into-1 pipe would do a lot better, and he thought that the 2 and the 1 pipe might actually do even better for the Woods 22XC, and you might be able to squeak out a little bit more torque, a little bit more horsepower. Now the thing is, Joanna wanted this cam for a completely different reason than I did. She loved the sound, and that's really what she was going for. I really wanted the horsepower and the torque, but I also wanted the sound, but that was a secondary thing for me. And so when we look at these torque curves, when we look at the horsepower, they were very, very similar. But I think, and you're gonna have to be the judge here, I do think that the S&S 475 cam sounds a lot nicer in terms of getting that real, just that typical traditional Harley sound. I really like that. Let's go take a listen. So again, I know it's hard. It's really hard when you're doing a YouTube video like, hey, listen to the differences between these two cams. It can be hard to pick up on, but trust me, that S&S 475 to me is the best sounding cam that Harley offers for the Harley-Davidson Milwaukee M8 engine. I hate to say this, but if I were gonna go back and redo the cam in my motorcycle, I would have also just gone with the S&S 475 because I like the sound more and the power numbers were pretty similar. I would love to hear from you for those of you who've done a cam on your bike, especially if you've got the Milwaukee M8 114 cubic inch engine. Down below, put your numbers in there. What did you get for your torque? What did you get for your horsepower? How do you like the sound? There's other options. Obviously, you got the Star 3030, which is a really popular one as well. I've got a friend of mine who's got that particular cam in his bike, and he absolutely loves it. It's got a nice sound as well. These aren't the only two on the market. Do your research, figure out, and especially figure out what your tuner, the person you're going to go to tune your bike, what they really like, because they can get the most out of not only that cam, but also you're going to want to talk to them about, hey, what tuner do you like? Like I said, we use the Pro Street tuners on our bikes. Your tuner might like something different. Again, thank you so much for being here. Hey, if you want to see more about this touring bike or touring bikes in general, check out that video in the upper right-hand corner. If you want to learn how to get a great deal on a motorcycle, especially if you're in the market for a new one, check out that video in the lower right-hand corner. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you next week. Ride safe, everyone.